Hi there. So here I am. I'm here to talk about the day that everything changed for me. On the 1 year anniversary of the day that I lost my job, which was February 23rd, 2024, I felt like it would be healing for me to finally talk about what happened and share my experiences. But I've been visiting my parents in Virginia for the past month and also have experienced the death of a very close, significant family member that's been a real struggle to reckon with. So now that I'm back home in Seattle, I'm finally ready to talk about it. Maybe, I think, kind of. It was the anniversary of one of the most shocking days of my life. And even a year later, I am still anxious about saying it out loud. I didn't even want to record at home originally around my husband. I was going to go walk in the woods at a park close to my house where I could be alone to tell the story. Literally, I was going to do this until 15 minutes ago, but now I'm too anxious to be out around people that I decided to stay here at home. So instead, I'm talking about this experience while sitting in the literal exact spot where it happened. So here we go. On February 23rd, 2024, I woke up about 6 a.m., normal day, preparing for what I thought would be a routine work day. I had been employed with a small SaaS startup for about a year and a half as a customer support specialist. And if you're not familiar, SaaS stands for software as a service. The company only had about 22 employees and I worked remotely. So literally the prior week, I had received a glowing yearly review and I was told that the best that they could offer in terms of a pay increase at that time was a 3% cost of living raise with the promise of revisiting my salary in June 2024. So as the company finances improved, of course, this was a little unsettling, but not enough for me to start a new job search because there were many aspects of the job that I loved. And I definitely did not feel that I had any reason to be concerned about job security. None, after the praise I had received, just a few days earlier. So I was working on Eastern time, Standard Time, as the company hours were 9 to 5 Eastern. So my schedule ran from approximately 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. So around 8:30 that morning, hour and a half into the day, a Slack notification popped up and a full team check-in was scheduled for 10 a.m. Now, immediately, this doesn't happen. The team began speculating about the reason for the meeting, not just in Slack, but through private text messages as well. So the last time we had a last-minute all-hands meeting like this, it was about a potential company acquisition, and that never materialized. So the chatter surrounding the sudden meeting of the entire team was really leaning towards the possibility of an acquisition by a larger company, which would mean a lot of changes for us. Now, at first, it was not a thought that our workforce could ever be reduced because every single team member was swamped with work beyond their own job responsibilities, and we knew they couldn't do without a single teammate. So now the thing about working for a small startup is that your role will never be limited to just your work involving your job title. You're expected to jump in wherever needed, and we did, and we have. The close-knit environment can also breed, a lot of drama though, and everyone knows a little bit about everyone, that kind of thing. And after everything, the company prided itself on prioritizing mental health, frequently reinforcing that we were a family. They emphasized their commitment to inclusive DEI policies, with mental health as their priority. One of the reasons I loved it so much. However, given what ultimately happened to me, I find this especially ironic. This same morning at 9:11 a.m., I received a text from a teammate that I had been chatting and texting with, worrying about the meeting all morning, and she said she had just been laid off. I was shocked and immediately sympathetic towards her and sad. I mean, everyone was already functioning at mass capacity as it was, so how were we supposed to manage without her? That was my thought process. This was horrible. So within minutes, the conversation that we had been having in Slack was gone. She was gone within minutes. At 9:20 a.m., I text my immediate manager telling her I had heard about my coworker being laid off and to let her know that I was really concerned. I was worried here. She responded that she was really hoping that our team was going to be okay, but she admitted she was worried too. 14 minutes later, at 9:34 a.m., a senior manager sent me a Slack message. Can you hop on a call? Normally that wouldn't have been a big deal, but in lieu of things, and attached was a Google Meet link. And I knew immediately I was about to be laid off too. As soon as I joined the call and I saw who was present, which was upper management and then my manager, I started recording the audio only on my phone, which was next to me. And I have listened to that 8-minute call multiple times since, and it still haunts me. The first words out of my mouth when I saw the faces on the screen is, "It's me, isn't it?" And then I started sobbing. The next thing I did, I apologized. Can you believe that? I was apologizing to them. I was given a paltry 2-week severance, and my health insurance, I was informed, would remain active until through the 29th. Now I was confused. This is the 23rd of February, and I asked through March 29th, and no, they clarified through February 29th. That's right, 6 days from now. So my head is just swimming, for one thing, in disbelief. They kept repeating phrases like, "This is unfortunate." They reassured me that it was not a result of any actions on my part, and they promised to do everything they could to help me transition. And I continued crying and apologizing and asking them to repeat things because I just couldn't even believe what was happening. My ears were ringing so loudly that I could barely process it all. How could this even be real? I had PTO, or paid time off, scheduled in just 6 days away. I was about to leave for a 16-day trip to Europe, a trip I had waited, literally a bucket list, like my entire life to take this trip. And we aren't wealthy, so this was a trip that we worked hard and saved for. I had just received a super positive performance review less than a week prior. And now not only was I losing my job, but I wouldn't even receive the PTO that I had earned for that upcoming trip. So I would return from my dream trip with no job and no income. So how was I supposed to enjoy it now? That was, just all these thoughts are flying through your head. I've never experienced anything like this before. So by the time that I was out of that call, which was less than 10 minutes, I was wiped clean from everything. I had no access to the product. My support queue access in Zendesk and HubSpot were gone. My Slack profile, of course, was completely gone. My access to Excel and Google Sheets that I used every day, gone. My company Gmail, gone. My Google Calendar, gone. Nothing. It was gone. I was gone. That fast. So the company that had included me as part of the family had annihilated me. I mean, in minutes, I was nothing. It took minutes. It's still hard for me to say it out loud and to think about it, and I'm having a hard time even looking straight forward to the camera to talk about it. Can you imagine? I mean, it felt like I was outside the front door to my home, and I had just watched a family member close the door and lock it in front of me, and I could never go in again. I mean, even though all my things, my memories, my money, it was all still inside, I was locked out. That's what it felt like. Complete shock, like panic, worry, fear, disbelief, self-pity, a lot of that at first. The emotions just flooded over me in the same way that the aftermath of experiencing a sudden death of a loved one does. And it, of course, was not the same as losing someone that you care about deeply, which I've experienced on more than one occasion, but the intense dismay, the overwhelmingness of it all, and the inability to accept what had just happened was a very similar feeling. So my manager texts me during that full team check-in, a little over an hour later, to tell me the name of the third person that was laid off. The story was supposedly the manager had so grievously mismanaged, the owner, the money, and there was no other option but to reduce the workforce. And then the VP of engineering was stepping into the CEO role, and going forward, it was all just nuts. And she actually felt the need to tell me that the owner and that the new CEO were sobbing during the meeting. And you have to forgive me if I felt nothing for their guilty tears. I'm sorry, they were still employed and they still had an income. I've been incredibly fortunate to have a supportive partner. And from the moment that I lost my job, he reassured me that nothing was going to change. We were still taking our trip exactly as planned. Less than a week away, I might add, because my first thought was, we can't go now. But he had no hesitation and no second guessing. He immediately reached out to his HR department and had me added to his insurance plan, as I qualified based on the sudden event. And so I did have coverage within 24 hours. And I was lucky. I was really fortunate in my situation when this happened to me. And, thank God for that trip now, because it was wonderful. And honestly, I think that's what carried me through the immediate grief of having my job ripped out from under me. It gave me a temporary escape, a buffer between the shock and then the reality of what had happened. But when we returned home, that's when the real discomfort set in. And I filed for unemployment, which I was eligible to receive, though it amounted to only about 30 to 40% of my previous income. It was something, and it would last for 6 months. So I was grateful for that, still grateful that I had that, but it wasn't security at all. And now the hard part began, because now it was updating my resume and refreshing my LinkedIn profile and checking off all the necessary boxes to start job hunting again. But, at 58, starting over from scratch is really daunting. I now had a layoff on my resume, and while I know it wasn't a reflection of my abilities, I couldn't shake the weight of it. I had received an email from the owner like a few days afterwards saying he was deeply sorry, and if he could support me in any way, just let him know, which is what a joke. Also, he was deeply thankful for my time at the company. Okay, thanks, buddy. Yeah, I feel so much better now that you've reached out to me. Thank you so much. But I had to start applying for jobs, and I couldn't focus. If you've never had to start over from scratch, I can tell you it's intimidating. And especially at 58 years old, it's humiliating at an age when many people are looking toward retirement. And I was back at square one, searching for a new job. And I truly felt like I had and I have PTSD in regard to that day. I feel triggered thinking about the day, those people, the company, everything. The time that I spent or wasted working for this company, I found myself lurking on LinkedIn and social media pages, looking for any signs from anyone about anything regarding the company. And even today, as little as 30 minutes ago, as I review those text messages and LinkedIn and listen to the audio of the layoff happening, I feel anxiety and panic, and I feel nauseous. I still haven't found another job. The thought of applying feels overwhelming, and the thought of having to explain my life and my vast job history to someone who is very, very likely going to probably be younger than me is at this point too much. It's intimidating, and I've never had a hit to my self-esteem in such a significant way. I mean, I'm now 59, and I'm not without a lifetime of job experience, customer-facing positions, jobs, but I have to feel that perhaps age played some role in decision. I mean, I was the oldest employee at this small company. I was 15 years senior to the next oldest person on the team. And I had gone through a rigorous interview process to land the job. I had 2 interviews with the person that was going to be my immediate manager, followed by a culture fit interview with 4 other employees, and finally a conversation with the CEO. So I fit in well with the team. And truthfully, I think maybe I'm not a mindset of a lot of women that I've met that are my age. I don't know. But I fit in well with the younger group. And, at the time, they did not know my age at the time of the interview. After all, a fully remote company interviews and hires remotely as well. So they didn't have my age confirmation until after I was hired. So perhaps it was a surprise to them. I'll never know, if it was or not. But I worked for them without problem at all for a year and a half, fit in great, felt like one of them. I was one of the family. And even when a company declares their ardent support of DEI, though, with age being an included protection, ageism can still seep in. Ageism is not always blatant, and sometimes it's woven into like offhand comments, casual remarks about, how old a celebrity looks that's in their 40s, or how they look much older, like they are at least in their 50s, or just jokes about aging when a teammate turns 37 and the Slack channel floods with messages about how ancient they are. And on the surface, this might not seem like ageism, but when a relatively young person's age is highlighted as old in a group where one member is actually significantly older, it sends an unspoken message. It reinforces a cultural bias, however unintentional, that aging is something negative. And this kind of talk was common. If everyone, here's the thing, if everyone in the group is of a similar age, then these conversations do not carry the same weight. If we're talking about, sitting in a room full of people between 30, and 40, when there's someone significantly older in the mix, and there's no awareness of how these remarks might land, then it becomes an issue. And it's really as simple as mindfulness. So hopefully people, if anybody sees this, they'll keep that in mind as going forward. In a company that prioritized, regular mental health check-ins, and they boasted values of inclusivity, you would think there would have been more awareness. Yet each time I heard these comments, I felt like a warm flush of insecurity, that momentary sting, the kind that makes you question whether you truly belong. So where did this experience leave me? It changed me completely, and I will never be the same person that I was before February 23rd, 2024. The good that's come from the experience, and there is almost always good in every situation. I firmly believe that if you look hard enough, you will find some good. But mine was the value I place in my time, because I worked remotely and I could just as readily work from my sofa exactly where I'm sitting now as my desk in my office. I would very often work way beyond my scheduled work hours because it was easy just to sit comfortably and just answer a few more tickets or complete whatever task I was working on at the time. So, and I'm not exaggerating, almost every single day I would work for 1, 2, occasionally even 3 and 4 hours, past my end of day scheduled time. I gave away my time to a company that let me go with a snap of a finger. Hours and hours that I should have been devoting to my husband and my family or to myself, I gave away. And I will never, ever undervalue my worth in that way again. Secondly, probably the next biggest thing is it took me 58 years to recognize that coworkers or teammates are just that. They are not your friends, or at least in many and probably most situations. Sometimes your coworkers become your friends, if you become involved with them outside of the workplace. I've had that happen in the past, but not always. Always keep part of yourself reserved, hold back a little bit, don't tell people everything. And remember that it's so easy to feel comfortable with the person that you have shared responsibilities with, but this does not make a friend. Here are for example, the last few text messages that I had with my direct manager on the evening that I was laid off. She said to me, "I hope you can relax a little and do some self-care tonight. And I am here if you need anything." Heart emoji. And I replied to her, "Thank you. Just stay my friend," with a heart emoji. Now her response, always heart emoji. I have not spoken one word to her since that time. Not a check-in. How was your bucket list trip that we've talked about for months prior? How's your family? Not a simple "how are you?" Not an update on the company or the team. Not one word. Occasionally one or two former teammates have liked something that I posted on social media, but I mean, that's it, nothing else. I have not severed all ties yet because I may need a reference, at some point. And essentially, though, I want nothing more than to remove their existence completely from my life. But for now, I have to wait. So I learned a valuable lesson in this as well, and that I think were life-changing lessons. I can still barely go to LinkedIn because I see something related to the company or any of the employees, and it feels triggering. I don't know what my path will be going forward, but this was a really, really difficult experience. I think it was necessary growth for me, and I'm going to look at it that way. And it was definitely exacerbated by the time of my life and being 58 years old. When you've been working for 45 years, the zest isn't as strong, to succeed and climb the corporate ladder anymore. I used to have that, but I don't. So I'm still figuring it out, and I'm still healing, to be truthful. I can't scroll through LinkedIn without feeling triggered, so maybe I'm not completely there. The thought of applying for jobs and explaining my life history to a hiring manager, probably someone who may be younger than me, feels overwhelming. And I generally feel like I'm a pretty positive person, and I don't talk a lot about issues or life experiences in a negative way. So hopefully I'll get there. And when I do, I'll be back to share the next chapter. If you've ever experienced something similar, or you understand that pain, that stabbing pain and the anxiety around losing your job without cause or warning, myself and others visiting this video may find your story interesting or helpful. So please share it in the comments. It would greatly help my channel if you could like and honestly subscribe. This may be all I've got for now, but until the fear and the panic from this experience have had the time to begin to pass, I don't know. I'm working hard on future life, healthy living, and travel videos, so they will be still upcoming now that I've gotten this out of the way. But that's it for now. So thank you so much for listening, and talk soon.